Okay, so over the next 60 to 90 minutes, it's going to depend on how we get on. I'm going to be talking to you about your new look total reward statement or annual benefit statement. Okay, I'm going to be talking to you about what they are, about what they tell you, and some other exciting things. But I want to get a couple of things out of the way first. What we will not be covering, okay, this is a very specific session because we've only got so much time. Those of you that know me know that I can spend 172 years talking to you about the NHS pension scheme, but we don't have that time tonight. So it's very specific. So some of the things we will not be talking about, we will not be talking about partial retirement. Should you take a larger or smaller lump sum, annual allowance issues, additional contributions, details around retirements, or anything else that is not total reward statement or annual benefit statement related. Okay, I need to be really clear about that. If you start throwing questions in the chat box about any of these things, I am going to ignore you because I can't do it today. We do a free NHS pensions overview, which kind of skips across quite a lot of different subjects around once a month or once every 2 months. You can find details about that on our website. Those of you who are a member of our member zone and pay the subscription, then we cover lots of other webinars as well: pre-retirement planning, partial retirement, how to financially plan in retirement, ill health retirement, boosting benefits, and many more. And they are all available to you to subscribe to and come along. But this one is very specific. So what we are going to be looking at is a recap on McCloud. We're going to look at the total reward statement and annual benefit statement to become a bit clearer. We're going to talk about what some of the options are when you make that decision, throw in some other things for you to think about on where to get help. And I'd also really like to talk about how many people quoted beanbags on my post compared to how many signed up. So when I wrote a couple of posts about this session and how to book on this session, it was a beautiful post and it set out all the exciting things, such as, yes, it will be recorded, and yes, you will get a copy of the slides, and this is the only one that I am doing. And right at the bottom, I put comment beanbags on this post so I can see who actually read all of the post. I already know some of you didn't read all of the posts because you've already asked me about recording and the slides, just saying, you know. But I would like to tell you that over 3,500 people read that post, and over 500 of you signed up for the session today, and only about 75 of you commented beanbags. So isn't that interesting? What that tells me, ladies and gentlemen, is that you don't read stuff. And that is going to be a big theme of the session today, which I bet you're very excited about, because I am going to really look forward to this. So it's really important that you read to the end of things because it makes a massive difference when you do that. And all will become very clear the more that we get into the session. You know I love you all dearly. You know this. Okay, perfect. Right. Now, I know some of you, because you're like uber impatient, what you're going to want me to do is jump straight into the statement. I'm not doing that because the statement is not going to make sense unless I tell you some things first. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of a recap on some things as fast as I can, and then we're going to go into what the statements are telling you, because that will make a lot more sense. Okay, perfect. Right, very quickly, roles and responsibilities. Any of my webinars you've been to, you've heard this before, so you get to sit through it again, which is wonderful. And it's really important actually around TRS time that we're really aware of this, because we need to be making sure that we know what we're doing, but also where we're directing any queries that we've got. Okay. So when we look at your pension scheme, there are actually three main parties in this. And it may surprise you to know that the biggest party is actually your employer. Now, the reason for that is because your employer has a number of different roles. So when we say your employer, that could be your HR department because they write your policies for you, such as your retirement policy. It could be your line manager because they make decisions about working patterns and partial retirement requests. It could be your payroll team because they are the people who deduct your pension contributions from your pay, but they also provide information to the pension scheme. The pension scheme doesn't know anything about you other than what your employer tells them. Okay, so they will produce your annual statements using the information that they have been given. So if you look at your statements and you think, oh, that pay's not right, then the place that you go for that query is your employer. Okay, so whilst we all like to sit and say very negative things about NHS pensions at the moment, some of it deserved, I'll be honest, actually, some of the queries could come through the employer. Okay, now we're going to talk about what pay is at the minute, so don't be firing off any queries yet, because I'm going to explain to you what the pay figure is on the statement when we get there, but just bear that in mind. So if your employer has any of that information incorrect, then it's going to mean that your statement is going to be incorrect as well, and it's really important that you're aware of that. The other party, of course, is the pension scheme. So the pension scheme is the NHS pension scheme. Now, it is different across the different nations. So the NHS pension scheme in England and Wales, you are together, is NHS Business Services Authority, or BSA. Okay. If you are in Scotland, it is SPPA, and if you are in Northern Ireland, it is HSC. Okay, so all of them are actually different schemes. They all follow the same rules, but they might have slightly different processes and forms. Okay, but they all are the same pension scheme in effect. Okay, have the same rules, do the same things, but are separate. Now, the pension scheme is responsible for doing things like producing your total reward statement or your annual benefit statements. They will calculate the benefits, they will pay your benefits, they will answer your pension queries in theory. Okay. And they do that with the information they receive from your employer. So if something's gone wrong with your statements or anything like that, and it's not a data query, then it might mean that it's something to do with the pension scheme, and we now need to therefore query it with them. But we need to make sure we know where we are redirecting anything. Okay. And the last party in all of this is you. Okay, I get very tired, very, very tired. I mean, I'm just tired all the time anyway, but I get very tired when people say, nobody told me. Well, it's not my pension. It's not your employer's pension. It's your pension. So you need to make sure that you do your stuff. So look at your statements. I mean, you're all here, so that's an excellent start. But you want to be looking at your statements, you want to be understanding them, you want to be referring to the pension scheme website, use our Facebook group, whatever you need to do to build up your knowledge about your pension, because it's your first or second biggest financial asset. It's huge. It's worth a significant amount to you. And actually, we need to make sure that we are getting what we need from our pension. And the only way we can do that is if we take time to understand it. And if this is the first time you've looked at it, it feels really scary and really daunting. Of course it does. It's the same as the first time you do anything. So you just need to be aware. You just need to be aware of that. Okay. You just need to make sure that you're giving yourself time. I'm going to talk to you at the end about what help is available to you if you need help. But the first thing you've got to do is try, and trying is really important. Okay, so that's just my little lecture for now. There's more coming. There are more lectures. Of course there are. Right, let's start then with a quick overview of the NHS pension scheme, and then I'm going to do a very quick reminder of what McCloud is, because of course the statement is showing the McCloud options, so we're not going to understand the options unless we know what McCloud is. See? Logic. Okay. So just out of interest, do we have any practitioners on the session today, or are we all not practitioners, which is known as officers? We've got a practitioner. Of course we have. Oh, we've got a few. Okay, perfect. No, that's fine. I do have a practitioner slide. I was just checking whether I needed to deploy it or not. Perfect. Okay. So the NHS pension scheme has 3 sections, okay, and it also has some slightly different sections. We have what we call practitioner, and we have what we call officer. So a practitioner is a GP or a dentist. Everybody else is an officer. Okay, that's the easiest way to remember it. So the bulk of you on today and the bulk of the membership actually are what we call officers. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you people first, and then I'm going to do a little bit about practitioner after that. So then the officers can zone out for a second. Okay. We have 3 sections in the NHS pension scheme. We have 95, 2008, and now 2015. For officer people, the 95 and 2008 are what we call final salary sections. And that means that your pension is calculated using your service. So the length of time that you've been in that section for, that's important. Just make a note of that. And your current pensionable pay. And the pensionable pay for both of these sections is full-time equivalent pay. Okay. And you can see we've got a fraction, and the fraction is just the formula that we use to calculate the pension benefits. So 1 divided by 80 times by our pay times by our service. For 1995, pay is usually the pay in the last 12 months. There are exceptions, and I have got a slide that tells you the definitions of the pay for you to refer to later. Within the 95 section, you will get a pension, which is an annual income for life, and you will also get a standard lump sum of 3 times the pension. 2008 is very similar. We've got a different fraction, which is 60ths. Again, final reckonable pay. So slightly different, but we've got the definition for you, but it's still linked to current pay and full-time equivalent, and also your pensionable service, which is length of time in this section for pro rata for any part-time service. 2008, you don't typically get a standard lump sum, but you can choose to swap pension for a lump sum at retirement. Again, this will make sense when we look at the statements. 2015 is what we call a career average scheme, which means it builds up each year. Now, practitioners, you can switch on now because your 2015 is exactly the same as the officers. Your earlier sections are different. We'll talk about that in a second, but your 2015 section is exactly the same. It's called a career average scheme because what we do is we calculate the pension each year based on pay each year. So if my pay is 54,000, you can see we've got a fraction again of 54ths. So I take my 54,000 and I divide it by 54, and that means that I've got £1,000 worth of pension for 1 year in the scheme. And the following year we would do the same thing again. So if my pay is still 54,000, I would divide it by 54, and that gives me another £1,000. And then I add the two together and I've now got £2,000 worth of pension. And we do the same thing every year. So it becomes an average of our pay for the time that we're in this section for. It's actual pensionable pay as well. So where you're part-time, it's your actual part-time pay. It also revalues each year by the increase in the consumer price index or inflation plus 1.5%. So it's growing very quickly each year. As with 2008, we don't have an automatic lump sum, but we can choose to swap some when we retire, and that's called commutation. Now, I'm just going to jump to practitioners. Look, see, I told you had a slide. Your 95 and 2008 sections are also career average sections, so you don't have final salary like the officers do. Yours has always been career average, but prior to 2015, it worked in a slightly different way. We have something called dynamised pay. Now, all that is we take your pensionable pay each year and increase it by inflation, and that's what dynamising means. And then we add all your revalued pay up every single year, and we give you 1.4% of that as your annual pension. So if you've ever seen any of your pension statements, you'll see that you have a massive table that has all of your pay history in it, and it'll have a factor, and that factor is the revaluation factor to bring it up to current rate. So we add up all of your pay for the length of time that you were in the section for, again, because we've moved across to 2015 now, and you get 1.4% of that. So any big fluctuations in pay for GPs or dentists don't really cause a big issue because it's in year on year. Whereas for the officers, then that big fluctuations in pay can't do it. Right, 2 seconds, everyone. You're all piling in the chat. Slides. So some people have got stuck on slides. Some people haven't. What I'm going to do, just in case, is I'm going to stop sharing and then I will reshare just to see if that fixes the issue. Okay, so I've done that now and we should be on slide 11. You might need to give it a second. Perfect. Right, we're good. Okay, perfect. With practitioners, though, if you are in the 95 section of the practitioner scheme, you will, though, get 3 times your pension as a tax-free lump sum, the same as the officers sections. Okay. So that's just a quick recap on your schemes and how they work. Aileen, if you're still on slide 1, do you have a button that says sync to presenter? Sometimes you have that near the slides. If not, can you move forward on your own? Okay, perfect. Right. Any questions there on the basic benefits? Remember, we're not doing retirement options or getting anything like that. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just setting the scene for when we start looking at the statements. Okay. McCloud then. Perfect. Thank you, Belinda. Belinda's with us, if no one else is. Right. McCloud. So, we've all heard of McCloud? Yes? No? That's a good start. Excellent work, everyone. Okay, and do we all know what it means? Okay, not fully. No, I think that's fine. Be honest. It's okay. It's not a test. I'm not going to start quizzing you on anything. Okay, perfect. So, very quick recap on McCloud. Back in 2011, there was a central government review of all of the public sector pension schemes. So this is not an NHS pension scheme issue. McCloud is a public sector pension scheme issue. Okay. So the review basically said we're going to look at sustainability, fairness, and so on. And the outcome of that was the 2015 schemes, or the scheme that you know as 2015. And that originally was introduced in 2015, but it wasn't introduced for everyone at that time. So what the schemes did was they looked at, as at April 2012, how close someone was to their retirement age. So if you had more than 13 and a half years to retirement age, you were automatically moved into 2015. It was mandatory. There was no choice. Sometimes I see this on the Facebook group. I wasn't given a choice. No, nobody was. If you had between 10 and 13 and a half years to your retirement age, then you would have moved into 2015, but at a later date. And you're sometimes referred to as a tapered member. And it would have been anywhere between 2015 and 2022. And it was based on your date of birth. And finally, if you were somebody who was within 10 years of your normal pension age, then you didn't move. You remained in your original section. Okay. Now, the problem with that, though, is that the thing that determines when somebody moved is age, and that is called age discrimination, and we're not allowed to do that. So remember, all of the public sector schemes did the same thing. So Judge McCloud, she was a member of the judicial pension scheme, or the judge's pension scheme. She raised the legal challenge that said, I think that's age discrimination. Now, I'd like to think if anyone's going to know, she's going to know, isn't she? And that is where we get the name the McCloud ruling from, because that was the first case. Okay. Now, interestingly, just a little side note, Judge McCloud actually fell into this orange category. Judge McCloud was older and so wasn't moved across into the new scheme, but she raised the legal challenge because she would have been better off in the new scheme. And everybody thinks it's the other way around, and there you go. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, so therefore, because of that, that was all found in July 2019. And since then, the schemes have been working really hard with HMRC and the Treasury Department to work out how to fix it. So how do we put in a remedy, hence McCloud remedy, that removes the age discrimination? Okay, and this is what we've got. So as I've said before the ruling, a vast majority of people were moved into the 2015 section from April 15. Okay. After the judgment, we had two phases of the fix, and you would have seen phase one last year had you got a statement last year, because what that showed you was something called rollback. So everybody was rolled back and allowed to continue in their original section, whether that was 95 or 08, up to the 31st of March 22. Okay, and then membership of the 2015 scheme commenced on the 1st of April 22. Do you all remember seeing that on your statements? So when you looked at your statement for 2024, you seem to have more in 95 than you did last year. That's because of the rollback. That was part one. That is the default position. You didn't need to do anything for that to happen. The second part of McCloud, though, is what we know now from looking at the statements as your alternate choice, or option B, as it's sometimes referred to. So what that means is when you come to take your retirement benefits, you can choose to have this option, so 95 or 2008 up to March 22 and then 2015, or effectively you can choose the option above it, which is 95 2008 to March 15 and then 2015 from April 15 onwards. So you get two options. So they're called standard and alternative or alternate, or sometimes also referred to as A and B. So when you come to take your pension benefits, you will then choose which one of those options you want to have. But what's happened is from this year, you are seeing both options on your total reward statements or benefit statements. Does that make sense? Don't ask me about the statement. We'll come into the statement in a minute. But in theory, does that make sense? So the statement is different this year because it's showing you both of those options. The reason you're getting both options is because for some people, one of the options is better. For other people, the other option is better. And if you're doing a partial retirement, then who knows? Because it depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve, which we'll look at in a moment. Okay. So that's why we've got the statement and that's why we've got both options, right? I'm just going to jump into the questions before we get into the statement. Revaluation up to retirement, CPI plus 1.5%. Does that stop if you retire 7 years earlier at 60 as a state pension age? So the revaluation for 2015 and the practitioners is CPI plus 1.5% whilst you're an actively contributing member. If you leave the scheme and take the pension benefits, then the revaluation rate is just inflation. You don't get the extra 1.5%. The 1.5% is like an active member bonus, if you like. Coming on to what happens if you don't have a statement. Have they done a blanket A and B option on everyone's TRS? I was not affected by McCloud, so wondered why they've put B on my TRS. Good question, Karen. Unclear, to be honest. Let's do the statement and then let's see where we are, because I don't know what yours says, obviously. Perfect. Okay. Any questions on McCloud in principle before we get into the statements? No, nothing. Okay, right. Okay, so total reward statement. Things I need to cover off with you. When I'm talking about the total reward statement, so that comes from the ESR, and the ESR is the electronic staff record, and it is mainly for those of you employed by trusts in England and Wales. Some of you who are not employed by trusts can also access your total reward statement through your ESR. It's the place you would normally go to get your pay slips if that's you. Not everybody has access to that in England and Wales, and I know that. Okay. The other place you can go to get your annual benefit statement is the NHS pensions portal, and I have put a link to it there so that you can register. You do need to get a code from your employer, and you do sometimes need to be invited to join, but that is also an option. You can also request an annual benefit statement. Those of you in Scotland, if there's anyone from Scotland, yours are called annual benefit statements, as I think yours are in Northern Ireland. It's all the kind of same thing that I'm talking about here. It is the pension statement that you get each year or should get each year that tells you what your pension benefits look like. Okay. Let me just talk to you about some issues because I foresaw this. Okay. So things that you might see as an issue. The total reward statement is not working. I can't open the total reward statement. I have nothing. Okay. Now there may be more issues around this, but this is what I'm just going to show you at the moment. If you have a total reward statement, if you're in England and Wales, the total reward statements are usually updated in August, which is why I'm running this session today, because it is now the 2nd of September, and I would have done it yesterday, but I don't work on a Monday, so there. So all of them should have been updated. I know they haven't been. I'm saying should have. Okay. They do a second run in December. Okay. Now, the thing about the TRS, for those of you in England and Wales, is it is a electronic conversation that happens between the ESR, because your ESR is your electronic staff record. It's where you get your pay slips. It's where you find out about stuff at work. It's not actually a pension system. Okay, so what it is the ESR is talking to the pension system through a run of a calculation, and it produces the TRS. Therefore, sometimes when one electronic thing tries to talk to another electronic thing, it doesn't work. We know this. We see this all the time with stuff that we do. Technology is great when it works. Sometimes it doesn't. There are sometimes circumstances where it doesn't work. So you might be able to go into your TRS, but you might not be able to download the pension statement. Okay, I know that. I can't fix it for you. I don't want to run a session where everybody's telling me what they can't do, because that is not what the session is for. Okay, you can try the NHS pension portal and see if you can get any information from there. Somebody said to me yesterday, if they click on the link for the pension statements, it doesn't work. But if they download the PDF first, then they can open the PDF. So you can try that. If you are somebody who has already taken your retirement benefits through a partial retirement or a retire and return, it will not work, because you are in the group where you are already receiving pension benefits. And so you need to have a separate letter that will come to you with your pension options instead. Be aware there are about 500,000 of you in that category, and it's going to take some time. And we're currently waiting for an updated timetable. I'm not discussing that either. You can also request an annual benefit statement. I'll come back to that statement in a moment. If you can't open the TRS, you can't access the TRS, you can try the portal. Again, you could try downloading it to see if it works, or you can request an annual benefit statement. If you don't have anything on the TRS, sometimes it comes up and it says we can't produce anything for you, ring this number. Then you know I'm going to suggest you ring the number. And you can also try speaking to your employer, and you can ask NHS Pensions for an estimate or try the portal as well. It is not ideal, but let me make something very clear to you. The pension scheme legally has to provide you with a statement every single year, the exception being from 22 up to 24 because McCloud was a big mess and they couldn't actually do it. But really, on a normal year, they should be providing you with a statement every year, and legally you're entitled to that. So you need to make sure that you follow all of these processes. Now, there have been some issues, I know, with some people contacting NHS Pensions and saying, hello, I can't get into my TRS. Can you give me a statement? And they say, no. We will only give you a statement if you are getting divorced, if you are very, very poorly, or you're going to retire in the next 12 months. That is incorrect. I have raised this with NHS Pensions today. I am waiting a response. I will update the Facebook group when I get a response. But legally, you are entitled to a statement every year. Okay. If it's not working, it's nothing to panic about. Like I say, it's just something electronic, or there's a data query, or perhaps you've got two employers or something weird and it doesn't produce for whatever reason. Okay. It's frustrating. It shouldn't happen. You should be able to just access it. Totally accept all of those things, but sometimes it doesn't work. And I've got no other answers for you other than that. Okay. If you're in Scotland, they have already started emailing them out. They started emailing your statements out in March, but they have said it could take up to the end of October if you are a complex case. So it is worth hanging on to the end of October if you're in Scotland. If you still haven't had one and you've checked your junk email just in case it's gone in there, then it would be worth giving them a call at that point or getting in touch. Right, Barbara has just reinforced what I said there. She said she couldn't view the statement but printed it out, and when you print it, it works. So just try other things, okay? If you fully retired in receipt of your NHS pension, do you still have access to the portal? Yes, you should have, although sometimes it takes a while to update from retirement. I have done the statements question. Right, I'm not into the statement yet, Faye, so hold fire. We're not. Have you got a statement on the screen? Am I showing you a statement? No, so we're not talking about what's on the statements yet. Yes, there is. I'm coming to that as well, Lou. Do we get retrospective statements? No, you will not get retrospective statements. You will only get current. Every year you should download your statement and save it, because it's going to disappear the following year. Does the TRS display any additional 2015 pensions being paid? Coming to that. Will this be our work email address? It depends on what email address you registered on the SPPA portal with, Lorna. So it could be work, it could be personal. I don't know what you registered with. The yearly statement you're referring to, is that what you can see on TRS on your? Yes, Catherine, that's exactly what it is. Right, marvellous, let's go. So, those of you who use the TRS, I know you might not be able to see all of the words on the slides. Okay, I appreciate that. You'll be able to see them more when you get them. Of course, if you're looking at your TRS, you'll also be able to see it. You log into your ESR. That's me logging in. And then it says, do you want to see your total reward statement? Right, your total reward statement is a statement that tells you lots of things. It tells you if you've got a salary sacrifice. It tells you what your overall pay was. It tells you if you had any bonus payments, any overtime payments, any other stuff that your employer offers you, because it's called a total reward statement. So it's telling you about your total employment rewards. It's clever, that, isn't it? Within the TRS, you can access a pension statement. The TRS is not your pension statement, but there is a pension statement that's part of the TRS. Does that make sense? Okay. And somebody has said, who was it? Who are you? Where have you gone? Lou quite rightly says this year, when you go in to access your pension statement, it gives you lots of explanations. There is a box that you have to tick that says, I have read all the notes and I understand that I've got two options on my statement this year. And you have to tick that box. So if you've ticked that box, you're telling the system you know that you've got two options and you understand what those two options are. Now there's loads of notes. So this is page 5. I've circled it in red at the bottom really subtly, just to, in case. Page 5 says, important note about your annual benefit statement. What is the McCloud remedy? What do I need to know? What is on my statement? Here is my declaration. Remember I said earlier about I put a comment beanbags on my post because I want to see who actually reads stuff. This is your problem right here with your statements. The vast majority of you do not read the notes. The notes are there to help you. So you need to read them and then it will make more sense. So don't be like Bob. Make sure you read the notes. You might need to read it more than once. I get it. Sometimes it's a bit confusing, but you must read them because they're giving you really important information to help you with that. Okay. Dennis, I've already answered this question about TRS. Sometimes they can't be produced. It's electronics talking to electronics, one system talking to the other. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's a data query. It's not really anything to worry about. It's annoying. It's frustrating. I've got no answers for you. It doesn't mean we should panic because it can't produce a TRS, because you can still request one. Okay. One day you will all listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Don't come on a session and then not listen to the words I am saying to you. Thank you. Okay, right. So are we good? Right. So let's get into the TRS. Okay. So we've got notes. We need to look at our notes. To access our TRS, you can go into the NHS pensions website. It also says on here how to access, and it also says if you are affected by McCloud, your statement will look different. Have a look here. Bet you've all done that as well, haven't you? And also then when you do log into the ESR, there's a section here that says, do you need help understanding your statement? And it will also give you some notes about what it's telling you. Isn't this very exciting, everyone? So hands up, who's read all of these notes before they've come on the session today? Yeah, that's what I thought. You know what I'm saying? It's really important. Okay. Most of them. All right, Melanie, I'll let you have that. I believe you. Actually, I do believe you. Right. Can we start with the questions, please? Because I can't do the questions and the statement. And if you're writing questions, you're not listening to what I'm telling you. So stop the questions for a second. We haven't got into the statement yet, and you were asking me questions about the statement. Maybe if you listen to the next bit about the statement, that will answer your question, and then you won't need to ask it. How about that? Right, let's try that. Okay, right. So let's go to the statement. You will find when you log in that you have, and you go in to look at your pension statement, you've got quite a few statements to look at. Okay, so you'll need to make sure you download all of them. Okay, and this is, so I'm now going to talk you through the statement. Okay, again, this will be clearer when you get your copy. This is the specific total reward statement for England and Wales. If you're in Northern Ireland, you're in Scotland, you end up with an annual benefit statement instead of a TRS, or you're on the portal instead of the TRS, it might look different. Well, it will look different, but the things it's telling you are the same. So you just need to make sure that you understand the terms, because that's what you're going to need to be looking at. Okay. So this is the 95 statement. So you'll have your member number at the top. Your membership number is 8 digits, and it usually starts with your year of birth. So I was born in 1980. So mine would start with 80 because that was my year of birth. It's the same member number for both sections of the scheme. It's how the pension scheme identify you. It's your unique identifier. That's what your member number is. Used to be referred to in England and Wales as an SD number. So if anybody's asking you for that, that's what it is. It has date first joined the NHS pension scheme. That's the date you joined this section. So this is 1995. So if I started working in the NHS in 1997, it's going to be that date that's there. It has the normal pension age for this section. So the normal pension age for 95 is usually 60. For 2008, it is 65. For 2015, it is state pension age, whatever that happens to be. Some of you in 1995 will have a special class status, and therefore sometimes it says 55. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it still says 60. It's a system glitch. It doesn't mean you've necessarily lost your special class status. It means that the statement is telling you the standard, typical, normal pension age of 60. If it worries you, ring your payroll team who have access to your pension record and ask them just to confirm that you do still have special class status. That's all you need to do. The pay on the 95 and 2008 statements are full-time equivalent. Remember, we talked about this earlier, and it should be full-time equivalent pay for the 12 months up to 31st of March 2025 for 1995. So it's your pay, your pensionable pay for the period from the 1st of April 24 to the 31st of March 25. So it will be your basic pay. If you have high cost living allowance, that is pensionable and added on. If you do unsociable hours, that is added on. So it's possible this pay figure could be higher than what you ought actually earn because it's one, it's full-time equivalent, and two, it includes lots of additional elements that are also pensionable. Of course, if you read the notes later where it tells you what pensionable pay is, you would know that. Just saying. It will say updated to. Now for 95 and 2008, this is always going to say 2022 when we look at the standard benefits, which is what this is. This is the standard benefit option. So the standard option, as we talked about before, is 95 to 31st of March 22 or 2008 to 31st of March 22. So that you can tell because it says standard there and also that date. It's still linked to your current pay, but what it means is after that date, your benefits are then in 2015. Are you with me so far? Good. Okay. Excellent work, everyone. If you are a practitioner, the pay figure is going to be your dynamised pay. So it's going to be massive. It might be like 1.5 million or something, because that is your pay every single year since you were in 95 plus the revaluation. So that's going to be a massive figure if you are a practitioner. So then the statement tells you your pension benefits. Now, the thing about these statements is they are a snapshot. Okay, so they are telling you how much pension you have built up to the 31st of March 25 or whenever the statement date is, assuming you take the pension at normal pension age. It's not projecting forwards. It's not assuming it knows what your future pay is or what your future pension will be. And it's not taking account of if you take the pension early. A snapshot, what it is now at normal pension age. So you get a pension. The pension is the annual income amount. So this is telling us this person will get about £12,000 per year at their normal pension age. The lump sum, as we know, is about 3 times that for 95, so 37 odd thousand. The adult dependent pension is the pension that is payable to a spouse or partner if you die, and it's paid for their lifetime. Reckonable membership and calendar membership. So reckonable membership, we just skip on, there we go. Reckonable membership is the membership that we use to calculate the pension. It can be different to calendar. So it might be that you had some unpaid leave. It might be that you were part-time, because when you're part-time in these sections, it is pro rata, so it is reduced. So you can have different reckonable to calendar length membership. There's also a number called hypothetical annuity cost. Now, anybody who's a follower of the page will know that a day, I think it was maybe last week or the week before, I was going to scrub all of these off of these statements. The hypothetical annuity cost means nothing. Okay, so if your hypothetical annuity cost is lower this year than it was last year, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your pension figures, because we know from earlier that your pension is based on a formula of pay and service and the accrual rate, or the fraction. The hypothetical annuity cost, the key word is hypothetical, which essentially means made up. Okay, and again, if you read the notes at the back of the statement, it explains what this is. The hypothetical annuity cost is basically saying if you want to replicate your NHS pension in a private sector defined contribution scheme, that is how much money you would have to have in the pot. And sometimes the value goes up and sometimes it goes down, because it depends for investments what's happening in the investment and annuity world. So why do they bother including it, Tim? Because this is a total reward statement, remember, or part of it. So they want to try and show you the value of your NHS pension if you were to have it in the private sector, because this person's hypothetical annuity cost is over £250,000, and I'll bet you my house they have not paid £250,000 in contributions into an investment. So it is about trying to demonstrate the value. I repeat, it means nothing, and if you beanbags read the notes, you would know that. Are we all okay? Are we all having a lovely time? Excellent, good. Hi, I absolutely can repeat the bit about reckonable service. So when you're in the 95 or 2008 as an officer, you build up service in years and days, and we use that to do the pension calculation. But where somebody has been part-time for any of that membership, the service is pro rata to allow for the part-time working. So if you did a year's service full-time, you would get 1 year service. But if you did a year's service part-time, we're not going to give you a year because you haven't contributed the same as somebody who was full-time. So you would effectively get half a year. And that's how it works. Jeanette, my lump sum is not 3 times the pension. It's a lot less. Should I query this? Jeanette, are you in the 2008 section by any chance? Eloise is not having a lovely time. Oh dear. If you are in 2008, then and you've got a lump sum, it will be because previous to being in 2008, you were in 95. And so when you moved across from 95 to 2008, you got to carry across your element of 95 lump sum. So that's what that is. It doesn't matter if they put you on a 36-hour standard contract. That would be, if that was the full-time hours, then you would be classed as full-time. So it depends on what your employer had as full-time hours, Isla. So some people have 36, some people have 37 and a half, some people have 39. It just depends on what the full-time equivalent hours are. Locum doctors and GPs in the 1995 scheme, again, you should have pensionable pay will be the dynamised pay as we talked about before. You will have some reckonable membership, which will be probably before you became a practitioner. So when you're a senior house officer, for example, so you'll have a little bit both, to be honest. You'll probably have 5 or 6 years reckonable membership, and then you'll also have your dynamised pay as we talked about before. I had 2 part-time jobs in the same organisation, paying pension both. They total full-time, but they've only credited me with half-time, if that makes sense. Right, well, you need to find out which employer is missing. So what you need to do, if you've got any service queries, is you go to NHS Pensions and you ask them for a service extract. And the service extract will give you a breakdown of your service, so where you worked, hours, and so on. If you've got one missing, you go to that employer and you get them to reinstate it for you. Isla, so the annuity bit, they're saying this is what it would cost you to buy something of this value out and supply to the public sector. Effectively, yes. It's just for information. It's just to try and show you the value of it. That's what it is. If 95 is based on full-time equivalent, is the pension amount also based on full-time? So I work 3 days a week. Do I work out my pension? It's been 3. No. So it's what it's telling you on the statement. So long as the pay is right and the service is right, you will get what's on the statement. It's not then apportioned again if you're part-time, because it will have had the apportionment already. So if it's saying 20k, then it's 20k. Excellent. Hypothetical annuity cost. No, 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 no. Does it really matter if final pay in 95 for 22 is wrong but is documented correctly on the 2015 statement? Yes, you need to make sure you've got the right pay. But 95 pay is linked to current pay still, not pay at 2022. So when your pay goes up now, it still increases your 1995 pension. Well done, Helen. Those of you in GP land will suffer quite a lot with this, like with bits missing and not being passed on and recorded correctly. Right, if you look further down the statement, you've got another section that says standard benefits if you take the maximum lump sum. So this is known as commutation. What you are able to do is swap pension for lump sum. So you will see this on the TRS. It doesn't always show it on all of the other types of statements. So if you can't see it, don't worry. But when you get a pension estimate, you will see it. Now, what you can see here, therefore, is that this person's lump sum has now increased to 66,000, but the pension has gone down to just under 10. So what you're effectively doing is you're swapping pension for lump sum. Okay, this statement is showing you the maximum. You can see it, that says very clearly there, the maximum lump sum. That means you can do anything up to the maximum because the maximum is the maximum. Okay, that's all it's telling you. Okay, and again, same as before. Okay, right, that is the 95 statement. I'm not going to show you 2008 because it's the same sort of thing. You get the idea, but I will show you 2015 because it is a bit different. Questions? Dennis, in the 2008 scheme, I'm multiplying the annual pension by 4.28 to calculate the maximum, then dividing this by 12 and subtracting that from the original pension to get the new amount. That is absolutely right. You have been following Facebook like an absolute legend. Well done. But it is on the statement for you as well. Should the pay in 2008, 2015 be the same? So if you are full-time, 95 and 15, the pay should be the same. If you're part-time, they'll be different. 2008 has a different definition of pay, so no, it will be different. 2008, again, if we read the notes, we would know this. 2008 uses the highest average consecutive 3 salaries in the last 10 years. So for 2008, it might use earlier salaries, which it then applies revaluation to because that gives you a higher rate. At the moment, I would expect 2008 and 2015 pays to be very different because when we apply high rates of inflation to 2008 to past pay, it makes it higher. My 95 and 2015 statement was so different pay figures for 24. Surely they should be the same. Depends, Michelle. Were you full-time or part-time? Contacted NHS pensions twice, but I keep receiving response that doesn't just because starting to doubt myself. My issue is if option B, my 95 is updated to March 21 and my 2015 starts from April 21. It should say 2015 unless you were out on the scheme, Fiona. So you need to carry on querying that, get a service extract, see what that tells you. Should be 22, not 21, correct. Right, perfect. Got it. Right, 2015 statement. Let's go. We're going to run out of time. So again, annual benefit statement for 2015, it tells you at the top, it tells you it's the standard benefit. So remember, this means that we have joined 2015 from the 1st of April 2022, and that is what you should be seeing in the date join section because it's standard. Member number is the same as before. Normal pension age is normal pension age for this section, which is your state pension age. Might be 67, might be 68, could be 66 and 9 months. It just depends on your own date of birth. Pay. So the pay this time for everyone is actual pensionable pay for the 12 months from the 1st of April 24 to the 31st of March 25. Okay, so it's what you actually received as pensionable pay, part-time, full-time, extra payments, indifferent, whatever it is. It should say it's updated to March 25 because it's the 2025 statement. That's what we're hoping. Okay, so it's very similar to what we were looking at before, but just a little bit different because it's got some different nuances depending on which section we are in. So again, we've got the same as we had before. We've got Annual income. So we've got a pension income of just under £3,000 at the normal pension age for the section, which is state pension age. There is no automatic lump sum for 2015, so that should be blank. Adult dependents pension is a spouse or partner pension payable on death at this point in time. Hypothetical annuity cost, same as before, just ignore it, it's nonsense. And then, although 2015 doesn't come with a lump sum, you can choose to swap pension for a lump sum. Remember, that's called commutation. And on the TRS, they give you an example of that. They give you the maximum lump sum at this moment in time. Remember, it will increase as your 2015 pension increases. So it shows you the maximum lump sum at the moment and then what the reduced pension would be. And again, remember, it is the maximum. You can do anything up to the maximum. There you go. Now, in 2015, if you keep scrolling through at the back, you will get a table and it will give you a breakdown of your pensionable earnings, as you can see here. So this is for standard benefits, 23, 24, 25. So it's year ending 23. That's because in the standard, we joined on the 1st of April 22. So the year ending is the 31st of March 23. Clever, isn't it? 23, 24, 25 is what you should see. The pensionable earnings for though each year individually. And then if you divide that pensionable earnings by 54, that will tell you the pension you've built up each year. When you add those together, plus the inflation that you've got over here, which is a percentage, it will give you the total pension on the front. That is how it works. This table is quite useful because it shows you the breakdown of your actual pensionable pay, so you can see if that looks right or not. Okay, I'll come back to questions in a second. Let's get through this bit first. So that makes sense. So that's standard. But then we've now got another option. This is exciting, isn't it? This is standard. We've just looked at standard. Lovely, exciting. Updated to 31st of March 2022. Oh, hang on. We've got now one that says alternative. So we've got a second statement. And that says updated to the 31st of March 15. Because remember, this is the other McCloud option now known as alternative or B. So what we will see here is we will see that our 95 service is less. We've got 13 years now instead of 20. And that's because, everybody, it's only up to 2015 because everything from that point is then in 2015 on the alternative. So you would expect pension lump sum service all to be less for 95 or 2008 with the alternative option compared to the standard. Okay. But the flip side of it will be is that your 2015 will be higher, because you're moving that 7 years between the sections, and that's what it is showing you. Does that make sense? Great. My membership number doesn't start with year of birth. It's not a problem now. It might just be if you're not in England and Wales. Sorry, Jane says, is that pro rata pay again? So for 2015, it's actual pay. So it's pro rata, yeah. It's what you're actually receiving if you're part-time. If my lump sum is 15,000 on my 25 statement at 59, is that the amount I would get at 60? 95 is what you would get at normal pension age, which would be 60. But obviously your pay might change between now and then, and that would then increase it because it still links the current pay. Sandy, just showing my experience. A service extract rang around 5 o'clock, sat in telephone queue for 20 minutes, call answer handled, ID check, took less than 30 minutes, stayed online and able to open the extract. It's very easy. It's very, very easy. In the 2008, for 2 years, 2 months, I do not have 3 consecutive years. How would this then be calculated? Pro rata. Yes, Jacqueline, that's right. It looks back at what you have got. Yeah, okay. So you've got 2 statements. You've got all standard and you've got alternative. Both are telling you the same things in that they're going to tell you your annual pension amounts and your lump sum and dependent pensions and so on, but they're going to look different. You, when you retire, make your choice. You don't make your choice now, okay? You make your choice at retirement age. So this again, remember the TRS annual benefit statements, they're just snapshots to show you the current value. Now, some of the things I get asked, can I take 95 from standard and 2015 from alternative? What do you think the answer is to that? Excellent work. Big fat no. Thanks, Joan. And why is it a big fat no? It's a big fat no because we're double counting 2015 to 2022, aren't we? So in A, 1995 is up to 2022, And in B, 2015 is from 2015. So we're double counting. So you can't, so you have A or B. You can't have a bit of A and a bit of B, because that, you know, I mean, we would all do that, wouldn't we, if we could? So you've got to choose one or the other, but you make the decision when you retire. Exactly, Joan. Joan is well on the ball. Well done, Joan. So we need to make sure that we look at both options. Okay, so things to remember. The pension figures, as we say, they're a snapshot of normal pension age. So actually, if you added the two pension figures together in alternative and compared it to the two added together in standard, alternative will be higher. And the reason it will be higher is because 2015 is payable later. It grows quicker, but it's paid later. So just looking at it now going, well, I'm going to have that one because it's better. You don't actually know that, because it's not allowing for any reductions for early payments. And it's also not projecting forwards for you. So it's giving you some information, which is quite nice to look at and quite helpful. It's not going to set your retirement plan for you. People obsess about the reduction in 2015. So if I said my 2015 pension was going to be £1,000, but I want to take it early, so it's going to be £700, people obsess. Well, I don't want to do that. I want it all in A because A will be better. Why is A better? Because it's not reduced, right? And it's reduced if I take B. Yeah, but B's higher to start with. So just because it has a reduction on it doesn't mean it's suddenly going to become lower than A. It might do, it absolutely might do, but it also might not. So what we do is we focus on the fact that there's a reduction. What we don't focus on is the fact that it grew more to start with. So you need to really understand your figures before you start going, well, I'm going to do that, or I'm going to do that, because you don't actually know, not until you have a look at it. You also need to think about what part of the pension do you want to access. So what will happen is, in theory, when you retire and you want to take some benefits, the scheme will give you a quote and it will say this option and this option. But if you only want to take some of the benefits because you're doing a partial retirement, you've got to look at, well, what does that give me now? What do I need now? And then what do I get later? Is it more valuable to me to get more later when I actually stop work and stop earning a salary? If I'm still earning a salary, do I need or want all of that now? You might do. Or is it better to wait and get a higher amount later? These are this kind of plethora of options you're now going to have. Okay. And that's why understanding this early is really important. Because you need to look at all, if you just compare two and you're retiring in full, that's easy. But if you're going to do things like a partial or a retire and return, you've then got to decide which bit do you want where at that time. So you've got to look at what is it worth now, but also if I didn't do that and I did something different, what is it worth later? And that's what we've really got to try and get into to try and understand what the options look like. So it's not something we should just be going tick a box. We need to make sure that we're really looking into it so we know what our best options are. You often hear me say walk, don't run. Okay. And it's because this is a huge financial decision. If my NHS pension is 10 grand a year and I receive that for 25 years, that's over £250,000 I'm getting, if not more, because of increases in lump sums. It's not something I should be running into without having researched it and looked into everything and make sure I understand my options. Because if I make the wrong decision, that could cost me thousands of pounds over my lifetime. And I don't want to do that. So, it's not everybody's wheelhouse. I understand that. You can give yourselves a really good run at this by reading the notes on the statement is a really good start. Facebook group, webinars like this, these are all here to help you. Don't expect to leave the webinar, remember everything I told you and it suddenly all makes sense, because it won't. But it's an iterative process. Don't give up. Just keep giving yourselves time, but get help if needed. There is help out there for you. So where to get help? Okay. Remember, you don't make any decisions until you want to take some pension benefits. There's nothing for the majority of you to do now. You just look at your statement and go, oh, isn't that interesting? And that's it. If you do need help about the McCloud options, there is a cost claim back scheme that's run by NHS pensions. And there are certain rules, but basically it's saying if you need help with your McCloud options because it's a bit too complicated for you, and the scheme can't or hasn't given you the information that you need to make those decisions, you potentially can claim back some or all of the cost that you've incurred from getting external help. Okay. And there's a form that you have to fill in to do that. There is no guarantee you will get that back, and you have to pay for it first, get a receipt, and then claim it back. So don't get help thinking you'll definitely get your money back, because you might not. It's up to NHS Pensions to make that decision. But I have put a link there to where you can find out more information about the scheme and what you can potentially claim for if you do need some help. But again, use the free information first. There is a retirement benefits illustrator on the NHS Pensions website. So the England and Wales, the public sector pensions remedy is a link there to the NHS Pensions website. There's a section in that says, when do I make my decision? If you go into that, there is a retirement benefits illustrator, which means you can fill in your details and it will project your pension at different ages. So if you're looking at going early, it does the reductions for you. If you want to, if you're going to see what it's going to be in 10 years' time, it will project forward for you as well. So you can, most people can use this, not everyone. So again, read the notes before you use it that's attached to the calculator to make sure you can see if it will be any help to you. We've got a blog about McCloud, but we've also obviously got our Facebook group that you are all very familiar with. We also have our member zone, which is a subscription service. It's £8.50 a month for 12 months. You must subscribe for 12 months. Or you can do £100 a one-off fee. That gives you access to lots of videos, webinars, flowcharts, how to fill in your forms, calculators, and some other webinars as well that I mentioned at the beginning, like partial retirement, retirement planning, and all that kind of stuff as well. So that is something else that you can use. If you're in Scotland and Northern Ireland, you can still use Member Zone. The forms that we talk about though are focusing around England and Wales at the moment, but things about how things work, what your options are, calculators, stuff like that, you can still use all of that. But there is a warning in there that does say that some of it might not be relevant for Scotland and Northern Ireland, so you just need to make your decision there. Okay, right, let's go to questions. I know some people have had to drop off, so let's have a quick look. Ursula, my alternative benefit is updated to 31,322, so incorrect. The figures are exactly the same as. So, Ursula, are you affected by the McCloud ruling? Were you a member of the NHS pension scheme before April 2012? If the answer to that is no, then your options will be the same, because effectively you're not affected by the McCloud ruling. So they've put both options on. Oh, you were? Okay, then yes, it's wrong. You need to query that, and you would query that with NHS Pensions, because that is a pension query. Sean, just check my NHS Pensions website. It's showing 95 benefits post-retirement, as 2015 is missing. No, Sean, as I've said, if you've already received your pension benefits, then your statements will not be updated correctly, and they are going to write to you separately. Don't ring them, because they'll just tell you they're going to write to you separately. We're waiting for a timetable to appear on their website. Karen, I'm 60 in December. My highest year's pay would be this year. I'm full-time. Would my pension calculation be on my annual salary rate, or would I be better waiting until the end of March? So it's last 12 months. So if your pay went up on the 1st of October, then if you wait and retired the following 30th of September, that is the last 12 months. So that's the pay that they will use. So if your pay went up in October and you retired in March, you would effectively have 6 months at old pay, 6 months at new pay. So you can just decide on that. Bye, Sean. Do locums with no access to ESR have to contact pensions every year for a TRS? You should be able to use the My NHS pension portal. We've linked to that in the slides, so have a look at that, because that should be something that you can get into, and that should help you. Sue, I'm about to apply for partial retirement, taking 95. If I take highest lump sum, could I end up having to pay some back? Only if you switch to the other option later. Presumably you would only switch to the other option if it was better, and if it was better, don't forget you can also commute some 2015 for lump sum, so you shouldn't have to. But if you're not sure, when you do partial retirement, you can just take 1995 up to 2015 anyway, and you fill that on the supplementary form. Catherine, I'm sure I read that you can take 25% tax-free from 95 after the age of 55. That doesn't affect the overall pension. You don't have to partially retire. Is that correct? That's absolutely incorrect, Catherine. I've never heard anything more incorrect in my life. I'm sorry about that. You can have a lump sum up to 25% of the value of the overall pension benefits. That, in effect, is the maximum lump sum that the scheme will calculate for you. You have to take lump sum and pension together. And, of course, it is reduced if you take it early. Harvey, will I get the full amount of lump sum showing my 2015 statement when I retire 7 years early? No, as I've said, the pension benefits are at the normal pension age, which is the normal pension age for the section, which would be 67 for 2015 for most of you. So if you take it early, it is reduced for early payment. Remember, it's a snapshot based on, at the moment, taken at normal pension age. It does not take account of future pension or any early retirement factors. On my employer benefits, the list what I've been paid for on-call and on-call emergency work. Does this get added to my annual salary, and will this count in my 5 months? The on-call supplement does, not on-call hours. So you need to check that. Do the employer contributions pay towards the current members in receipt of their pension? Is this their contribution to the NHS pot? So the NHS is classed as an unfunded scheme, and what that means is that the contributions that are paid by you and the employer effectively pay the pensioners of the current pension scheme. Yes, but the percentage is calculated based on about 24% of each of you, and therefore the Treasury also backs the scheme, so they will never run out of money and your benefits will continue to be paid, but it does run on a pay-as-you-go basis. Yes. Fully retired on the 7th of August and waiting figures and payments, should I now expect to receive the 2 options? Sadly, Miriam, no. Although they've managed to sort out the TRS, they still have not got to a point where they can provide both options at retirement. So they will provide you option A, which is the standard option, and they will write to you retrospectively with option B. They are, Tanya, thank you. If you take maximum lump sum with partial without getting both options yet, can you take B when completely retiring? You'll get the option to revisit. Yeah. Not when completely retiring. What will happen is when if you've already taken some benefits, they're going to write to you with your alternative option. Okay. Is members own okay for practitioners? For 2015, yes. Looking back at the old schemes, not at the moment, and it's on my to-do list. It was a case of implement the biggest volume of thing first. So not yet. There is a video actually that I've linked to at the back of the slides that shows you what it looks like. So some of it will be useful, some of it won't be. I'm being entirely honest with you. Does the yearly TRS display any additional 2015 that's been pensioned? You didn't miss it, Rob. I didn't get to it. No, for reasons nobody understands, including myself, any additional pension is not included on the TRS. I don't know. You can request an annual benefit statement that should include that. Sorry. I've made extra pension contributions, but they aren't showing. Oh, sorry, Amanda, I've just covered that. Yeah, for additional pension, it doesn't show on the TRS. I don't know. Don't ask me. Can I ask what basic pay arrears means? Yes, Colette, it means that at some point you got a pay increase that was backdated. That is all it means. It has nothing to do with the pension. Where is the best place to go for help if your employer is less than helpful? You can come to us. We are chargeable though, that's the only thing. So we would always say use the websites, use our Facebook group, come on our free webinars like this one to get as much information as you can. But ultimately you might have to pay for some support. Karen, if you're looking for advice whether to transfer your local government pension to your NHS, what is best, you can speak to us, Karen. We can't tell you what to do, but we can tell you if you do this, it will mean this, and if you do that, it will mean that, and then you can make the decision, if that's helpful. That you're welcome. If you don't have special class, can you leave 95 at 50 or 55 years? If you joined 95 before April 2006, you can leave you can take the benefits from 50. So the key date there is April 2006. Obviously, it's reduced for early payment. Can you still contribute to the NHS pension if you take your 2015 at state pension age? You continue to work as long as you're still working in the NHS. Yes, you can. You can start again. You are welcome, Isla. Due to retire at end of November, AD rates with when I will contact about McCloud. I don't know, Sonia. I honestly don't know. At this rate, probably 2029, but hopefully not. Is 95 based on the highest salary over the last 3 years? I got a lower paid job. It looks at the highest last 12 months in the last 3 years. So it will count back 12 months from retirement dates and look at that pay. Then it will look at the 12 months before that. Then it will look at the 12 months before that, and it will use whichever is the highest. My 2024 TRS 95 was higher than the new one. Maximum lump sum down by 6. I'm affected by McCloud. I contact and reduction due to revaluation percentage gone down last year. Does that sound correct? No, it doesn't, Deborah. I don't like that. Maybe you should email me separately and we'll have a look at that, because that sounds like bobbins. Yes, we do provide personal support. You can go on our website and there's a form, or you can email support@pengage.co.uk. Please don't email me. I don't want 200 people sending me an email. I love you all, but no. Husband retired from the NHS in June. Will he still get a total reward statement? No, as I've already said, Andrea. I mean, he might do, but it'll be wrong. So basically, they're going to write to him separately in due course, and I don't know when. Marvellous. Good. Are we done? Excellent. Well done, everyone. So here are my contact details. This is a link to our website. You can go on there. There is a contact form on there that you can fill in, and you can find out more about the support that we can provide on an individual basis. It is literally what we do. It is how we make our money. So I really do like it when people want to pay us to do things. There is also our support inbox. If you send it an email in there, likely Charlotte will pick that up and will kind of redirect you if you need redirecting somewhere as well. The important thing with all this is take the time, read the notes. I know it's boring. I mean, you just want to get straight to numbers, don't you? That's fine. Skip to the numbers, but then go back and look at the notes if you're not sure what something means, because they are genuinely there to try and help you. Totally appreciate sometimes pension stuff is very confusing. NHS Pensions website is not always the best for finding information. I know that, but they do all have a member guide. So you can just Google NHS Pension member guide and it will come up, and stuff like that. That actually is quite helpful. So do definitely have a look. You can come on any of our free webinars as often as you like. I don't vet. Okay, I'm just looking at the comments, see if I've missed anything. You are all very much welcome. I'm going to turn the recording off now. Thank you, everyone. I'll just turn the recording off.